Imagine spending millions on a home, only later to realize that it didn't actually align with your lifestyle, what you actually do every single day. Rooms that are not zoned well, meaning that you've got acoustic issues all the time. The kids are always there in the background whenever they should be on the other end of the home. Work from home is just an afterthought, meaning you're still working on the dining room table or in some little dingy niche that doesn't have a view or any natural light. It's not really good enough these days, is it? Or a guest room, maybe, that's unused 365 days a year. What a waste of space whenever it could have been a really good multi purpose room. Maybe that's where your study is. These sort of things happen a lot, right? And it's all avoidable. It's all about asking the right questions at the right time. And that's why we have designed a home briefing tool. We just want to run through it today to give you a bit of an idea of the sort of questions that you should be asking. Not questions like, how many bedrooms do I need? That's the wrong question to ask. Start by asking questions about what you do when you get up first thing in the morning, what each of the different family members' routine is on a weekday, on a weekend, when guests come over. Each of these little pieces of information start to piece together your life in the mind of your designer. And they can then best reflect that life back in the form of a design. That way your home is going to align to you. And it's not just about now. Yes, it's about ensuring that you've got exactly what you need right now, but you also want to start thinking 5, 10, 15 years into the future, ensuring that your brief, your budget, and your future needs are perfectly aligned. So let's get into the tool. Okay, so here is the home briefing tool itself. It starts out with a bit of a guide, who we are and so on. And then, a bit on how you use the document. Obviously, the first thing we need to know is who is the point of contact. But beyond that, we actually want to know who will be living in the home. This is not a process specifically just for one person, which is the main point of contact. We really want to know about everybody who lives in the home. So ideally, we ask that each person in the home, as long as they're able to, is involved in this process and fills out this themselves, because there can be huge differences between individuals in any given home on how they will actually want their home to be in their light. That's important to actually get that right. Now, the first thing we don't ask about how many bedrooms you need or how many living spaces. Instead, we go down the route of asking what your daily rhythms and routines are, because this starts to paint a much clearer picture of how your family actually works. And from that, then we can reverse engineer a building around exactly what your family does on a typical weekday and on a weekend. And so the home will work very differently depending on the time of week it is. And so we really need to try and get a picture of how this works. And as I say, for each different person, it might be different. The next thing we go into is, which is very important nowadays, is work, study, and productivity. More and more people are obviously working from home. So we want to bring that in as a focus, make sure that we've actually created the right sort of spaces for you. And so it asks who's working from home, what kind of workspaces, are they quiet, are they like private acoustic tech setups, and so on, what size, what sort of storage. And then what are your current frustrations with this working from home environment that you currently have? And these sort of questions will help us to make a better informed decision about the design and how we can tailor it to exactly alleviate your frustrations. And then what would the ideal workspace be? Would it need to be multifunctional, so it can, maybe only work from home some days, and other times it can be a guest room or a hobby room or a kid space? Looking for opportunities for multi-purpose spaces mean you don't have to build as much. What kind of separation physically and psychologically do you need? Very important. And then living together, the zones around that with noise and shared spaces, and trying again to understand how your family works. Where do you gather most? What are the friction points? Where do you feel calm, relaxed as needed? Privacy, guests, and other household members. What is the makeup? How does it actually work, and how do you want it to work? And are there any sound and privacy issues? So very important questions that will again give us a clear picture of what's happening. And then into the kitchen and dining and eating generally. Who cooks and how often? What kind of meals do you eat together and how often? What are the current frustrations? Is there not enough bench space, poor lighting, and so on? Kitchen pantry features. What matters most? How do you handle waste? And dining areas. What do you use the dining areas for other things other than just dining? Outdoor areas, connection to nature. How often do you use outdoor spaces? What's missing? What's your frustration? What kind of outdoor experience would you love to have? How important is a view? Do you dry clothes outside? Do pets need to be considered? So, a lot of high-end questions. And again, these are just starting points. They're things that are going to get you thinking about these different environments. And then really important things like storage, movement, and everyday tasks. How well does your current home support everyday tasks like laundry, cleaning, getting kids out the door? Where do things tend to pile up and cause frustration? So again, if we understand this, we can alleviate those problems. If we don't understand it, then we're likely to design those problems back into your new home. So very important that we understand. Same thing with bedrooms and comfort. How many bedrooms do you currently have and how well do they function? So again, we're not asking how many you need. We're asking about how many you currently have and how well do they function. So again, this is giving us a really clear picture of how your current home works. And from that, then we can reverse engineer a solution. And you might find that you don't need those extra bedrooms that you think you do. Potentially those can be multi-purpose spaces that work in different scenarios. And we can only get those answers by coming through a process like this, where we question and go deep on what these spaces actually mean and how they are to work. So very important that we go through that. And rest, sleep, personal spaces. What makes you feel rested and restored in your bedroom, for instance? How well do your current bedroom support sleep and personal space? Just all about trying to understand what it is about a home that helps you relax. Is there something specific that you do that you need to have in your new home? Is there a frustration in your current home that we need to resolve? And then the same thing about guests and visitors, shared hospitality. How often do you have guests, and are they overnight or just for gatherings? Again, this tells us how often are you going to use a guest bedroom? Is it something that you need all the time as a dedicated space? Could it be multi-purpose? Could it actually be a bedroom that's a kid's bedroom because they're off at university at the same time that guests come? All these things help us to narrow down the focus on your home and make it really aligned to you. Energy, environment, long-term thinking. Obviously, we want this home to be as energy efficient as possible and thinking about it in the long term. This is not an exercise about the problems that we're solving now. It's about an exercise on how the home will evolve with you over time, making sure that we get it right. And again, it's about understanding what your current frustrations are, how we can, again, alleviate those. What do you experience? High energy bills, for instance. Are those out of proportion with your comfort? Are there specific frustrations with your home energy and water systems? Low maintenance? A lot of simple questions really get you thinking again about the future and how this works. And the exact same thing on health, wellness, and sensory needs. Do you have existing health conditions, sensitivities? Are there particular materials or finishes you want to avoid or include for health reasons? Do you feel well currently sleeping in your house? Um, Huge influence on your life over time, and only potentially getting worse if we design it incorrectly from this point onwards. So, yeah, really, I'm trying to understand a little bit about that. Then about flexibility and future proofing. So again, touches on the same thing about the trying to leave something that's going to last for a long time. You're expecting changes in your household composition over the next 5 to 15 years. Kind of hard to predict beyond that, but it's a good starting point at least. Um, yeah, how important is your home to accommodate physical changes such as change in mobility and so on, aging in place? All these are very important questions that you might not be thinking about right now, but have potentially huge impacts into the future. If you have to change your home around because somebody has mobility issues, that could actually force you to have to sell your home, and that's a terrible outcome whenever it could be resolved within a design brief. And then the same thing just with car storage and access practicality. Maybe you won't have a car in the future. Maybe you'll just use robo taxis. They're imminent. They're coming, whether we like it or not. That is the way of the future. Maybe you will never drive. Your kids might never drive. Thinking about what that huge triple garage might be if you built it in the future. Is it just dead space? Do you really need it? So again, just asking the questions, making sure you're clear about what the future might hold for you. And the same with budget, priorities, and value management. You might have a particular budget, but how do we actually tailor that budget to align with all of the things that we just talked about? And that's about prioritizing, and it's about value alignment. So making sure that we've got everything aligned so that we can minimize the amount of cost for the maximum amount of impact possible to fulfill your needs. And thinking, then just about a breakdown of other costs that are included in the construction. Have you taken these into account in your budget whenever you're talking to an architect? Because often, the architect might assume that you say you've got $1 million to spend, that's only on the construction of the building. Whereas landscaping could be another 200,000 on top of that. A pool could be another 200,000. Your furnishing could be another 200,000. These things obviously all add up and all need to be considered from the start. And so, hopefully that sort of gives you a good idea. This just wraps it up then and gives you a means to send this back to us so that we can start working with you around any of these specific ideas. Okay, so I hope you found that to be useful and really getting a feeling about the idea that questions are really important. What we're really trying to do here is trying to capture your everyday life, the things that you do between the important stuff, the big occasions. It's the everyday movements around the house, not just for you, but for every one of your family, and not just about today, but into the future as well. Thinking about 5, 10, 15, 50 years from now, what is your home going to need to do? What's it going to need to adapt towards? And can you plan for that now? Are there spaces that can be multi-purpose and adapt enough to alter and move towards the life that you're likely to have? This list is not a definitive list. It's designed to be added to and to be changed and altered. The list that we've provided is purely just a means to get you started, to get you thinking in a different way. If you'd like this tool, there's a link in the description. Just grab it down there. Use it with your own architect, your own designer. Make sure that you get the home that you want. Thank you so much.